Samuel Crawford had lived 46 winters in the Montana Territory. His ranch sat at the edge of the valley, where the pines gave way to open meadow. He'd built the place with his own hands 20 years ago, dreaming of filling it with family and laughter. But his wife Emma had passed during childbirth, taking their son with her. The house had remained empty ever since, its rooms echoing with memories of what might have been. On a January morning, when snow fell soft as whispers, Samuel rode his horse along the border of his property. The cold bit at his face, but he'd long ago made peace with the harshness of winter. What he hadn't made peace with was loneliness, though he'd never admit it to anyone. That's when he saw her. A young woman tied to a fence post, her white dress soaked with blood and snow. Around her, impossibly, lay 3 newborn babies, wrapped in torn pieces of cloth. The infants were crying, their small voices barely audible above the wind. The woman's head was bowed, her dark hair hanging loose around her face. She was conscious but barely, her breathing shallow. Samuel didn't hesitate. He dismounted and knelt beside the nearest baby, a tiny girl with a fierce cry. Then he looked at the woman. "Ma'am," he said firmly but gently, "I'm going to get you out of here." Her eyes lifted to meet his, dark pools filled with pain and resignation. "Leave me," she whispered. "Just the babies. Please." "I'm taking all of you," Samuel said. He pulled his knife and cut through the ropes binding her to the post. She collapsed forward and he caught her. "Can you tell me what happened?" "3 girls," she said, her voice breaking. "My husband, he wanted sons. His family said I brought shame. They said—" She couldn't finish. Samuel felt a rage burn through him, hot enough to melt the snow around them. But he pushed it down. Anger wouldn't help anyone right now. "You're coming with me," he said. "You and your daughters. All of you." "I can't," she started. "Yes, you can," Samuel interrupted. "And you will. Because those babies need their mother, and right now, you all need help. We'll sort out everything else later." He gathered the 3 infants, wrapping them in his coat and the woman's shawl, creating a bundle he could carry. Then he helped the woman onto his horse. She was weak, barely able to hold on. Samuel climbed up behind her, holding her steady with one arm and the babies with the other. "What's your name?" he asked as they started toward home. "Sarah," she whispered. "Sarah Chen. Well, Sarah, I'm Samuel Crawford. And you're safe now. I give you my word." The ride back to the ranch took 30 minutes that felt like hours. Samuel could feel Sarah fading, her body going limp against him. The babies cried, their small voices cutting through the winter air. He talked to them all, keeping Sarah conscious with questions, soothing the babies with the same low tones he used with frightened horses. At the ranch, Samuel carried them all inside. He laid the babies on the sofa, wrapped in blankets, then helped Sarah to his own bed. She was burning with fever now, her body fighting infection and exposure. Samuel had tended animals his whole life, had learned healing from necessity. He cleaned her wounds with warm water and whiskey, his hands as gentle as they were capable. Over the next 3 days, Samuel barely slept. He tended Sarah's fever, changed her bandages, forced broth between her lips when she could barely swallow, and he cared for the 3 tiny girls, feeding them milk from his neighbor's goat, warming them by the fire, learning to change their wrappings and soothe their cries. Mrs. Abernathy, the widow who lived 5 miles east, came when Samuel sent word. She was a practical woman of 60 with kind eyes and capable hands. "Samuel Crawford," she said when she saw the scene, "you've gotten yourself into something here." "I know it," Samuel replied, rocking the smallest baby, who he'd started calling Little Grace in his mind. "But I couldn't leave them," Mrs. Abernathy smiled. "I know you couldn't. That's why I came to help." Sarah's fever broke on the 4th day. She woke to find Samuel sitting beside the bed, holding 2 of the babies while the 3rd slept in a dresser drawer he'd padded with blankets. "They're alive," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "They're strong," Samuel said, "just like their mother." Over the following weeks, Sarah regained her strength. Samuel insisted she take his room while he slept on the sofa. Mrs. Abernathy came daily, teaching Sarah about caring for the babies, bringing supplies, offering the kind of wisdom only another woman could provide. The house that had been silent for so long now rang with infant cries and soft lullabies. One evening, as they sat by the fire, each holding a baby, Sarah spoke. "I don't know how to repay you," she said quietly. "You saved our lives." Samuel looked at the child in his arms, the tiny girl he called Grace. "Sarah, I haven't felt this alive in 20 years. This house needed life in it. It needed purpose. You gave me that." "But the town will talk," Sarah said. "A Chinese woman and her children living with a white rancher. My husband's family. If they find us—" "Let them talk," Samuel said firmly. "And as for your husband's family, they'll have to go through me. I've got 2 good rifles and the law on my side. You were left to die. That's attempted murder in any court." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why would you do all this for strangers?" Samuel considered the question. 20 years ago, I lost my wife and son. For a long time, I thought that was God's way of telling me I wasn't meant to have a family. But maybe I was just waiting for the right family to find me. These little ones need a safe place to grow. You need a place to heal and start over. And I need to be reminded what it means to have someone to care for." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "You're a good man, Samuel Crawford. I'm just a man trying to do right," he replied. Same as anyone should be. As winter gave way to spring, the ranch transformed. Sarah proved to be an excellent cook and a talented gardener. The 3 girls, now named Grace, Hope, and Faith, grew stronger each day. Samuel expanded the house, adding rooms for the children. He taught Sarah to ride, to shoot, to read the weather and the land. The town did talk, of course. But Samuel had never cared much for gossip, and Sarah had survived far worse than wagging tongues. They created their own family, bound not by blood but by choice, by kindness, by the simple decision to see each other as human beings deserving of dignity and love. When Samuel turned 50, Sarah baked him a cake, and the 3 girls, now 3 years old, sang to him in their sweet off-key voices. As he looked around his table at these 4 souls who had become his whole world, Samuel understood something profound. Sometimes the family we're meant to have isn't the one we planned. Sometimes it's the one that finds us in our loneliest moment and reminds us that love isn't about bloodlines or traditions or what the world expects. It's about showing up. It's about choosing compassion over cruelty. It's about opening your door when someone needs shelter and your heart when someone needs hope. The 3 girls grew up strong and bright, carrying within them their mother's resilience and Samuel's quiet strength. They learned 2 languages, 2 cultures, creating something entirely their own. And on quiet winter evenings, when snow fell soft as whispers, they would gather by the fire and Sarah would tell them the story of the day a lonely rancher looked at 4 lives the world had thrown away and said the only words that mattered. "You're coming with me." Those 5 words had changed everything. Because sometimes that's all it takes. 5 words spoken with conviction. 5 words that mean, "I see you. You matter. You're not alone anymore." Samuel Crawford lived to be 78. When he passed, it was surrounded by family, by love, by the beautiful noise of grandchildren and great-grandchildren filling the house that had once been so silent. Sarah held his hand and thanked him one last time for saving them. But Samuel, in his final moments of clarity, simply smiled and shook his head. "You saved me," he whispered. "You all saved me." And perhaps that's the deepest truth of all. In choosing to save others, we save ourselves. In opening our homes, we open our hearts. In seeing the humanity in strangers, we reclaim our own. The greatest acts of courage aren't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes they're as simple as a man in the snow looking at suffering and refusing to turn away. Sometimes they're as simple as saying, "You're coming with me," and meaning it with every fiber of your being.